Sometimes the most defining moments of your life begin in the quiet of a morning, long before the world even notices you're awake. Before the noise, before the responsibilities, before the rush, there is a sacred window where your spirit whispers truths that your busy mind often forgets. And on this Thursday, the 20th of November, 2025, I want you to step into that window with me, not as someone searching for perfection, but as someone longing for alignment, for clarity, for a breath of spiritual strength that can reset your entire day. Because the truth is, your morning is not just the beginning of your schedule, it is the beginning of your atmosphere. It is where battles are won before they're even fought, where peace is chosen before stress makes its demands, where identity is affirmed before life tries to shake it. If you can learn to start your morning with intention, with prayer, with awareness, you can walk through the day carrying a strength that the world can't explain. So take a breath, quiet your heart for a moment, and step forward with me into this sacred beginning. Today, your morning becomes your turning point. The power of beginning with prayer is not just a religious routine. It is a spiritual alignment that rearranges the entire architecture of your inner world before the pressures of the day begin to shape you. When you rise in the morning, your mind is like untouched soil, soft, quiet, open, and whatever you plant in those moments becomes the atmosphere you will walk in. Starting with prayer is choosing to plant strength before fear, clarity before confusion, and surrender before pressure. It is the moment when your heartbeat slows down enough to hear what your soul has been whispering beneath all the noise. Prayer at dawn is like opening the windows of your spirit and letting fresh air wash away the heaviness you carried from yesterday. It reminds you that before the world names you, labels you, demands from you, God has already placed identity, intention, and peace inside you. When you start with prayer, you are not escaping your problems. You are entering your day with the one who can transform them. It is an invitation for divine wisdom to guide your decisions before you make them, for divine strength to meet challenges before they arise, and for divine peace to anchor you so deeply that nothing external can shake you. Morning prayer is a reset, a spiritual recalibration that brings your emotions, your thoughts, your hopes, and your fears into alignment with something bigger than yourself. It is the difference between walking into life with a burdened heart or with a heart full of expectancy. And in that stillness, you begin to remember that you are not navigating this day alone, that every breath you take is infused with purpose, and that even the smallest act can become meaningful when offered in the awareness of God's presence. Prayer creates space within you, space for patience, space for forgiveness, space for calm responses instead of reactive anger, space for joy to rise even on difficult mornings. It protects your inner atmosphere from the chaos that tries to settle on you. It teaches you how to see with spiritual eyes, how to hear beyond surface noise, and how to sense the path your spirit is being nudged toward. When you begin your morning with prayer, fear loses its authority because you have already rooted your heart in trust. Doubt loses power because you have already spoken truth into your spirit. Anxiety loses its grip because you have already surrendered the day to a wisdom greater than your own. There is something sacred about those first few minutes after waking, when the world is still silent and your spirit is most honest. In that space, prayer becomes a conversation. Not a performance, not a ritual, but a meeting of your heart with the source of your strength. It is where you confess what you cannot fix, where you release what you cannot carry, and where you receive what you cannot create by yourself. It reminds you that you are human, but not helpless, vulnerable, but not defeated, uncertain, but never abandoned. Beginning your morning with prayer turns ordinary moments into spiritual anchors. Making your bed becomes an act of discipline, blessed by intention. Taking your first step onto the floor becomes a declaration that you are stepping into purpose. Even a simple breath becomes a reminder that new mercy flows through your lungs. Prayer shapes not just your morning, but your identity. Because in those quiet moments, you hear who you truly are before the world tries to tell you otherwise. It strengthens you not just to survive the day, but to walk through it with grace, power, and spiritual awareness. It opens your heart to the possibility that today could bring healing, restoration, unexpected favor, or a breakthrough you didn't even know you needed. And it does all this without demanding anything except your willingness to show up in honesty. Even if your words tremble, even if your heart feels heavy, even if your mind feels scattered, because prayer works not because you are strong, but because you are heard. Quiet strength in ordinary places is one of the most overlooked forms of spiritual power, yet it is often the most transformative. There is a beauty in simplicity that many people ignore because they are waiting for dramatic moments, grand signs, or intense spiritual encounters to convince them that their journey is meaningful. But real spirituality often lives in the quiet corners of daily life, in the soft gestures, in the gentle routines, and in the seemingly ordinary spaces where your heart learns to breathe again. The girl next door presence is not about appearance. It is about authenticity, being real, being grounded, being approachable, being the kind of soul whose strength is felt rather than performed. It is the kind of strength that doesn't shout but steadies. It doesn't demand attention but naturally influences. It doesn't need to prove anything because it is rooted in an identity secure enough to move through life with grace instead of force. When you embrace quiet strength, you begin to realize that spirituality is not limited to sacred places. It can be found in your kitchen while you make tea, in the peaceful hum of early morning, in the small smile you give yourself in the mirror, in the way you choose kindness even when no one notices. Ordinary places become altars when your heart chooses awareness, gratitude, and intentionality. Quiet strength is simply the decision to be consistent in goodness, even when the world celebrates noise and chaos. It is the awareness that your presence itself can be healing, that your calm is a gift, that your steadiness can carry others without you ever needing to announce it. It is choosing to remain true to who you are, even when life feels unpredictable. Many people misunderstand strength as loud, forceful, or dramatic, but those forms of strength often fade quickly. Quiet strength is deeper because it comes from within. It builds over time through resilience, through lessons learned, through surviving seasons that forced you to grow roots instead of wings. It is born from honesty. Honesty about your fears, your hopes, your wounds, and your determination to rise anyway. When you carry this kind of strength, you don't need to impress anyone. You simply live, and that life itself becomes an example. The girl next door presence is relatable because it reminds others that spirituality does not require perfection. It requires sincerity. It requires the willingness to bring your real self before God, before others, and even before your own mirror. This kind of strength shines brightest in quiet decisions. Waking up when your heart feels heavy but choosing to move forward anyway. Forgiving others even when they never apologize. Maintaining integrity when shortcuts call your name. Picking yourself up after a failure without announcing your struggle. And showing compassion even when your emotions feel fragile. These are the unseen victories that shape your character more than any public moment ever could. It is in these small moments that your spirit is refined and your identity becomes anchored. Quiet strength teaches you that your value does not depend on applause. It is not measured by how many people see your effort. It is measured by the truth that lives within you. You begin to move with a sense of peace that does not crumble with criticism or inflate with praise. You learn how to walk steadily through storms because you have learned how to breathe deeply in silence. You start to recognize that your ordinary life is actually filled with extraordinary opportunities to grow, to love, to forgive, to learn, and to become who you were always meant to be. When you cultivate this presence, you begin to glow without trying. People feel safe around you, not because you have all the answers, but because your spirit is gentle, grounded, and sincere. You become someone who listens deeply, someone who sees others clearly, someone who carries warmth even on difficult days. You become a reminder that strength can be soft, that resilience can be quiet, and that beauty can come from the simplest parts of life. This is the kind of presence that moves through the world with humility and power at the same time, touching lives not through grand gestures but through genuine moments that linger in the heart. Surviving through faith is not merely the act of holding on. It is the deep internal transformation that happens when life pushes you to your limits, and yet something inside you refuses to break. Survival is often misunderstood as a physical endurance, but true survival is spiritual. It is the inner victory that whispers, "I am still here," even after circumstances try to silence you. Every sunrise becomes a quiet celebration, a reminder that what you went through did not destroy the essence of who you are. When you survive through faith, you begin to understand that your strength was never meant to come from your own ability alone. It is the invisible hand that carried you, the unseen grace that kept you steady, and the whisper of hope that rose within you when your world felt dark. There are moments in life when you wake up carrying the weight of memories that still sting. Times when you look around and wonder how you made it through a season that felt impossible. Surviving through faith does not mean you escape the pain. It means the pain did not erase your purpose. It means that even when your heart felt bruised and your mind felt scattered, something sacred within you kept you from giving up. Faith is the quiet fire that burns beneath the ashes of your disappointment. It is the inner anchor that holds you steady when storms roar louder than your prayers. It is the small, fragile hope that tells you there is still more ahead, even when you cannot see the path. When you survive through faith, every scar becomes a story of grace. You begin to see that the struggles you walk through carved out space within you, space for compassion, space for understanding, space for resilience that cannot be manufactured. Those nights you cried alone did not weaken you, they deepened you. Those failures that embarrassed you did not define your worth, they refined your character. Those betrayals that broke your spirit did not destroy your identity, they lifted you into a higher awareness of who truly deserves a place in your life. Survival teaches you that strength is built through vulnerability, and faith teaches you that vulnerability is safe when placed in the hands of the divine. People often imagine that faith removes challenges, but what it truly does is reshape the way you face them. It gives you the courage to walk through valleys without losing your vision, to confront fears without losing your voice, and to endure hardships without losing your heart. Survival through faith turns you into someone who understands the depth of human fragility, yet carries an unshakable confidence that storms cannot define your destiny. It makes you aware that every battle you went through became a bridge to a deeper version of yourself. This kind of survival also changes how you see others. You no longer look at people through judgment. You see their hidden wounds, their silent battles, and their unspoken fears. You become gentler because you know what it feels like to break. You become kinder because you know how much kindness saved you in moments when you felt unseen. You become wiser because you learn that faith is not just belief. It is movement, surrender, and courage woven together. It is the invisible strength beneath your visible life. Faith-driven survival also teaches you the value of perseverance. There were days when you didn't feel strong, when your prayers felt empty, when you questioned your purpose. But even on those days, you kept moving, even if the movement was small. Maybe it was a single breath of hope. Maybe it was simply standing up. Maybe it was choosing not to quit. These little moments are the foundations of spiritual endurance. Over time, they accumulate into a kind of strength that cannot be taken away from you. Most importantly, surviving through faith gives you a new identity. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of life's storms and begin to see yourself as someone who carries divine resilience. You begin to believe that if you survived what was behind you, you are equipped for what is ahead. You walk with a quiet confidence because you know your survival was not an accident, it was a calling. It was proof that your life is not finished, that your story is still unfolding, and that there is a purpose waiting for you that only someone who has endured and risen can carry. Transforming weakness into fuel is one of the most remarkable spiritual processes a person can experience, because it turns the very things that once made you feel small into the strength that propels you forward. Everyone carries weaknesses, whether they are emotional, mental, spiritual, or rooted in past experiences. But what separates those who rise from those who remain stuck is the choice to look at those weak places not as prisons, but as classrooms. Weakness has a strange way of exposing what needs healing, what needs releasing, and what needs surrender. When you allow your weaknesses to speak, you begin to understand the hidden parts of yourself that you ignored, avoided, or silenced. These areas are not signs of failure. They are invitations to growth. They teach you where your faith must deepen, where your courage must awaken, and where your hope must stretch. So many people spend their lives hiding their weaknesses behind masks of perfection, fear, or pride, believing that vulnerability is dangerous. But when you hide your weakness, you also hide the doorway to your transformation. Weakness is not something to escape. It is something to explore with honesty, compassion, and spiritual awareness. When you look at the moments you stumbled, the times you fell short, the seasons when your heart felt fragile, you begin to see patterns that show you where your spirit needs reinforcement. These weaknesses become the raw material from which God builds your future strength. What once intimidated you becomes the very area where you develop mastery. What once made you ashamed becomes the very testimony that gives others hope. What once felt like a burden becomes the fuel that drives your purpose. Transformation begins with acceptance. Accepting that you are human, that you have limitations, that you have wounds, and that you are still becoming who you are meant to be. Acceptance is not resignation. It is the first step toward empowerment. It allows you to take ownership of your journey instead of pretending you have already arrived. When you accept your weakness, you can finally begin to work with it instead of fighting against it. You begin to develop strength, not by denying your struggles, but by walking through them with intention. This process is what turns weakness into wisdom and pain into power. Another part of transforming weakness into fuel is understanding that your struggles develop qualities that ease cannot. Weakness teaches humility because it reminds you that you cannot rely solely on your own strength. It teaches empathy because once you felt broken, you recognize the signs of brokenness in others. It teaches resilience because every time you rise from your weakest moment, you strengthen your spiritual muscles. Weakness is a trainer shaping you into someone capable of carrying more responsibility, more purpose, and more courage. Strength without struggle is shallow, but strength born from weakness is unshakable. There are moments when your weakness reveals what you truly believe about yourself. Maybe you fall into old patterns, and instead of sinking into shame, you choose forgiveness. Maybe you feel overwhelmed, and instead of shutting down, you choose to pause and breathe. Maybe you feel insecure, and instead of comparing yourself to others, you choose to honor your own journey. These small decisions are how weakness becomes fuel, because every time you choose growth over fear, your spirit expands. The situations that once drained you become the very moments that deepen your faith. The triggers that once controlled you become opportunities to practice awareness and self-mastery. The emotions that once paralyzed you become signals guiding you toward healing. Weakness becomes fuel when you surrender it in prayer, rather than hiding it in silence. Bringing your weakness before God is not an act of shame, it is an act of trust. It says, "Here is the part of me that feels unsteady. Teach me how to rise." In that surrender, grace flows in, strength grows quietly, and understanding deepens. You begin to see that what made you cry once may empower you later, because nothing surrendered is wasted. Your weakness becomes a bridge connecting your humanity with divine strength, allowing you to experience transformation that is both internal and enduring. Over time, you stop seeing your weakness as something that holds you back and begin seeing it as a compass that points you toward the areas where your greatest growth is hidden. You stop running from your flaws and begin learning from them. You stop fearing your limitations and begin transforming them. Weakness becomes the spark that ignites your purpose, the fuel that drives you to become more than your past, and the foundation upon which your future strength will stand. Gratitude as your foundation is one of the most transformative spiritual principles because it shifts the entire emotional chemistry of your life before anything on the outside even changes. When you choose to begin your day with gratitude, you are training your spirit to focus on abundance rather than lack, on possibility rather than pressure, on blessings rather than burdens. Gratitude is not denial, it is discipline. It trains your mind to recognize the quiet miracles happening around you, the breath in your lungs, the strength in your body, the opportunities waiting to unfold, and the unseen protection that carried you through nights you thought would break you. When you make gratitude the first posture of your morning, you start your day with an open heart rather than a heavy one. Gratitude is powerful because it changes perception. Two people can face the same challenge, but experience it completely differently depending on the lens they look through. When your lens is gratitude, even the difficult moments carry meaning, and even the ordinary moments shine with quiet beauty. Gratitude softens the edges of pain and magnifies the significance of joy. It teaches your heart to recognize that life is not just a series of demands, but a collection of gifts. And when you learn to see those gifts, even the small ones, you deepen your spiritual resilience. You realize you are never as empty as you feel, never as alone as you fear, and never as defeated as circumstances try to convince you. Practicing gratitude is not just about listing things you're thankful for. It is about developing awareness. It is noticing the sunrise and acknowledging that another chance has been given to you. It is feeling the beating of your heart and recognizing that purpose still flows through you. It is remembering that despite all the struggles behind you, you have survived every single one of them. Gratitude becomes a spiritual anchor when you choose to pause long enough to see the things you used to overlook. The warm water of a morning shower, the quiet moment before the day becomes loud, the ability to move, think, breathe, hope, and dream. These small acknowledgements shift your inner posture from restlessness to peace. Many people wake up and immediately meet the day with anxiety, thinking about bills, responsibilities, unanswered questions, and unresolved emotions. But when gratitude steps in first, anxiety loses its authority. Gratitude doesn't erase problems, but it grounds you so deeply that your problems no longer feel bigger than your spirit. It reminds you that you have overcome before and you can overcome again. Gratitude brings your focus back to what is working, what is growing, what is strengthening, and what is still possible. It is the light that keeps your spirit steady when life feels uncertain. Gratitude is also a spiritual amplifier. Whatever you appreciate grows in value. When you appreciate your peace, you protect it more. When you appreciate your relationships, you nurture them more. When you appreciate your opportunities, you become more disciplined. When you appreciate your past, you extract wisdom instead of shame. Gratitude helps you see the good hidden inside every chapter of your life, even the ones you never wanted to walk through. It reveals how every difficulty pushed you toward growth, how every delay protected you, and how every disappointment redirected you towards something aligned with your true purpose. Gratitude also strengthens your relationship with God because it acknowledges that you do not walk through life alone. It shifts your prayer from "I need more" to "thank you for what is already here." And that shift opens your heart to receive even more. A grateful heart is spiritually magnetic. It attracts peace, clarity, and favor because it is aligned with humility and awareness. Gratitude reminds you that everything you have is a gift, and everything you will receive is grace. When gratitude becomes your foundation, your responses to life change dramatically. You complain less because you understand more. You fear less because you trust more. You compare less because you honor your own journey. You worry less because you notice how many times you've been carried. Gratitude gives you emotional strength and spiritual clarity, helping you navigate challenges without losing your joy or your sense of identity. Throughout the day, gratitude continues to shape how you move. It turns ordinary routines into moments of reflection. It turns interactions with others into opportunities for kindness. It turns setbacks into lessons. It turns waiting periods into training grounds. Gratitude creates a heart posture that is always ready to receive, always ready to learn, and always ready to grow. When you wake with gratitude, you enter the day with a spirit that is already lifted. Your heart walks lighter, your mind thinks clearer, and your soul becomes more open to guidance. Gratitude builds the spiritual foundation that allows everything else, faith, peace, courage, purpose, to rest securely. It becomes the ground you stand on when life begins to shake, and the lighthouse that guides you forward when the path is uncertain. Walking into the day with purpose and spiritual confidence begins long before you step outside your front door. It starts within, in the silent conversations you have with yourself, in the intentions you set before the world demands anything from you. Purpose does not always arrive with a loud announcement. It often comes as a quiet knowing, a gentle pull toward meaning, a sense that your life has direction, even when every detail is not yet clear. When you choose to start your day from that place of intention, you walk differently. You carry yourself with an inner steadiness that life's unpredictability cannot easily shake. Purpose is not just about achievements. It is about alignment, moving in a way that reflects who you truly are and why you are here. Spiritual confidence complements purpose by anchoring your identity in something bigger than your circumstances. It is the assurance that you do not walk through the day alone, that divine guidance accompanies each step, and that you are supported even when things do not go as planned. This kind of confidence does not come from ego or self-importance. It comes from a deep sense of connection to the one who formed you, shaped you, and continues to lead you. Spiritual confidence is quiet but powerful. It does not boast, but it does not waver. It allows you to face challenges without losing your center, to handle pressure without losing your peace, and to pursue your goals without losing humility. When you walk into the day with purpose, you begin to make choices with intention instead of reacting out of habit. You speak more thoughtfully because your words become part of your mission. You move more calmly because your spirit is not in a race with anyone else. You prioritize what aligns with your values and release what distracts your spirit. This creates a sense of order within you, even when life around you feels chaotic. Purpose brings clarity, and clarity brings confidence. You no longer drift through the day hoping something good will happen. You carry the awareness that something good can happen because you arrive prepared and aligned. Spiritual confidence amplifies that alignment. It empowers you to trust the unseen, to follow the quiet direction of your intuition, and to believe in possibilities that your physical eyes cannot yet see. This confidence teaches you how to walk through doors with grace, how to stand firm when you feel resistance, and how to step back when something is not meant for you. It helps you listen deeply, discern wisely, and speak truthfully. It reminds you that your steps are guided. Your path is intentional, and your life is unfolding with purpose, even when you cannot predict every turn. Spiritual confidence is not arrogance, it is assurance. It is the inner knowing that you are held, supported, and equipped for whatever awaits you. When purpose and spiritual confidence work together, you become someone who moves with quiet authority. You stop chasing things that drain you. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable. You stop doubting every decision you make. Instead, you carry a sense of inner direction that guides you even through difficult moments. You are no longer defined by what happened yesterday or limited by what you fear might happen tomorrow. You live fully in the present moment with your spirit awake and your heart engaged. This presence becomes a gift to yourself and to others. Walking into the day with purpose also changes how you see challenges. Instead of viewing them as obstacles meant to discourage you, you begin to see them as opportunities that sharpen your focus and strengthen your character. Purpose transforms frustration into reflection, and spiritual confidence turns uncertainty into trust. You move through your day believing that every encounter, every task, every conversation has the potential to shape your growth. You begin to understand that nothing is random. Even delays and detours carry meaning. This way of walking builds discipline without forcing it. You naturally become more mindful of your choices, more selective with your time, more protective of your peace. You show up fully because you understand that your presence matters. You approach people with compassion and strength because purpose reminds you of who you are becoming, and spiritual confidence reminds you of who walks with you. As you move through the day, this combination becomes visible, not in loud or dramatic ways, but in the way you carry yourself. People feel the steadiness in your energy. They sense the sincerity in your actions. They notice the clarity in your eyes. You become someone who inspires confidence simply by being aligned. Your day unfolds differently because you walk differently. You respond instead of reacting. You seek understanding instead of conflict. You lead with intention instead of hesitating from fear. Walking into the day with purpose and spiritual confidence means entering life each morning as someone who knows they are guided, strengthened, and positioned for meaning. It means stepping forward with a spirit that is awake, a heart that is open, and a mind that is steady. It means trusting that the day ahead is not just something to survive, but something to shape with intention, faith, and the quiet power that comes from knowing exactly who you are becoming. Here is a powerful conclusion, plus good luck, plus thank you message to close your entire speech with depth and emotion. As we come to the end of this journey, remember that every morning is more than just a routine. It is an invitation to rise with intention, to breathe with awareness, to walk with purpose, and to stand in the quiet strength that has always lived within you. Your prayer, your gratitude, your survival, your transformation, your confidence. These are not separate pieces of your life. They are the foundation of who you are becoming. And when you choose to honor your morning, you choose to honor your spirit. You choose to step into the day as someone guided, protected, strengthened, and aligned. Let this day, this moment, remind you that you are not walking alone. The same grace that carried you through yesterday is ready to empower your tomorrow. The same faith that held you together in your weakness is ready to lift you into your purpose. And the same light within you that survived every storm still burns steady and unshaken. So as you go forward from here, may your mornings be filled with clarity, your steps be guided by purpose, and your heart remain open to the quiet miracles waiting for you. Good luck on your journey. May strength follow you. May peace surround you. And may every new dawn remind you how powerful your spirit truly is. Thank you for listening. Thank you for showing up. And thank you for choosing to grow. May your day and your life continue to rise with grace.